As we begin, I just make a gentle note that we'll be talking about early and forced marriage and teenage pregnancies. And for some of us, this is very sensitive. Please take care of yourselves. And if you need to step out for a minute, please do and come back when you're ready. This is a very supportive and feminist space. I also want to share very quickly some ground rules. For those of you that haven't introduced yourselves yet in the chat, please do so. We would like to know who's in the room. Introduce yourself with your name, your organization, and where you're joining from. We also have a Q&A function and a chat function that you can use to post comments and questions throughout the webinar. So where you feel you'd like to share comments, be part of the conversation, kindly use the chat function, and you can access this on the screen. This webinar is going to take 120 minutes. We'll try to accommodate all the questions that are raised, but if we do not have all the questions answered, please feel free to email them to info@sihanet.org. And if you'd like your message or your question to be seen by everyone, kindly address it to everyone. But if you'd like it to a specific panelist, address it to that panelist in the chat. We also have translation that has been provided. While the webinar is going to be conducted in English, we have translation in Amharic, Arabic, and Somali. And this can be accessed using the interpretation icon. It's a globe symbol at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So at this point, I would like to encourage any of us that would like interpretation to go ahead and use that function. You're all welcome to share content from presentations that are being made during this event. However, to protect confidentiality and safety of participants, we do not encourage sharing any identifying information like names, photos without explicit consent. And we are going to have an open discussion and we welcome every viewpoint. So for now, I would like us to go straight into the webinar. I will start with Dr. Lamia, who is our first panelist, and she's going to be speaking about the current war in Sudan. We know as a result of the current crisis, it has accelerated child marriage and teenage pregnancy, including among displaced populations, the conflict-affected regions like Darfur, like Blue Nile, and across Sudan. And we know that you have deep experience around engaging with culture and religious narratives that have been used to justify child marriage and teenage pregnancy. So Dr. Lamia, based on the current Sudan context, please speak to us about how the culture and religious norms are being interpreted or misused to justify early and forced marriage, and what spaces exist within faith and tradition to challenge these narratives and protect girls from harm. Over to you, Dr. Lamia.
Okay, thank you very much, Lauren. I would like to say good afternoon or good evening to everyone here. Thank you for joining. Today, my presentation is going to be on the war and displacement and the surge of early marriage in Sudan. The issue is like the issue of the hot speech of the time now. Because of what is going on currently in Sudan, of the war. It's not just, the war has intensified the risk for girls that already been intensified, and that's through child marriage and teenage pregnancy. This is not a humanitarian issue, but also a deep protection with a long-lasting effect on families and communities. Next slide, please. Of course, the war that started in April 223 has caused so many displaced of millions of Sudanese and disrupted all aspects of their life. Among those affected are, of course, adolescent girls and young women, in all region, but specifically in region like Darfur, Blue Nile, White Nile, and Khartoum at the capital. Areas is being controlled by rapid force like RSF or even the army staff. Girl has been pushed into marriage as early as 10 years old and 12-year olds. Often, of course, without their consent, since they are just a child. These practices are justified using cultural and traditional misuse of religion argument and being used as a way of protecting girls, but in fact that cause further harm than protection. Next, please. More than 10 young people has been displaced. Schools are shut down. Families have lost some of their members. They have lost their incomes. They lost their dignities. The health facilities are almost collapsed and shut down. In this environment of chaos, families see early marriage as a coping mechanism. But as I said, it's not a coping mechanism. It's worsening the girl's protection further. And this may trap them in a cycle of violence, poverty, and even poor health. Next slide, please. I would like here to demonstrate how conflict fuels early marriage. There is some point of views, understanding, and I just classify them in 4 types of ways how war intensifies this issue of child marriage. The reason that drives families facing economic desperation. Many they think that marrying girls off will lessens the burden of the cost of living for them and also for having a bride price. Because usually when you marry your daughter, you receive the mahr or the price. So people are thinking like economic point of view. Some parents, they marry their daughter off because they think under the protection of a husband, they will be like protected from violence and even stigma. Being raped as a married woman is better like being raped as a child that being protected by her father. The third reason, since the school has been shut down and there is no health services, girls have no protective spaces and also they have no other opportunities. Since there is no school, so they send her to be married, and that's also one of the reasons. But the most disturbing reason, the fourth one, that there is cases of force and pressure from the conflicting parties to abduct girls or to marry them, even the underage girls, and they force the family to accept the marriage of their daughters. And there is a lot of I can see a substantial rate of sexual slavery and abduction of girls, and even selling some girls for money after they've been used by the conflicting armies. They sell them at markets. Next, please, which is here now. But I want to show evidence from the field. Of course, most of my presentation has been based on other people research and studies from the field. Reports from IDPs camps show that families directly link marriage to survival. There is no way. They all say for the girl to survive, we better marry her off at young as much as possible. Girls as young as at 12 years old are forced into marriage to reduce family burden, as I said, or to provide food. Sometimes even the new husband provides food for the bride and for the families. Some survivors of rape even being pressured to marry their perpetrators. Instead of rapes, when they even held the perpetrator responsible, he offered to marry the girls. Most of the time, people accept that, but this is also causing a kind of violence and harms against the girls. I took this information from organizations like SIHA, Human Rights Watch, OCHA, and they have been documented abduction, sexual enslavement, and forced marriage on a large scale. Next slide, please. In this part, I would like to say where is the hotspot in Sudan, because not all of Sudan are covered evenly with this violence, but mostly some regions are receive most of this violence, like in Darfur, where humanitarian access is being blocked, because blocking humanitarian access is being used as a weapon against the other parties. So in Darfur, there is a blockage of access to humanitarian and even foods. Survival marriages or abduction are also widespread. Uh, and widespread, those who survive of the abduction or even marriages, sometimes the conflicted party, they leave these places, leaving those wives behind. In Blue Nile and South Kordofan, a protected conflict and displacement exposed there to high risk in Khartoum at the capital and territories controlled by RSF and SAF. There is systematic report of rapes. And this has been documented in so many areas and in so many magazines and even academic research. There is detention from girls, and there is like forced like disappearance of girls that they don't know where they have been, and there is forced marriage against even the family will, not even the girls will, and this has been documented. A report of retaliation, like if a girl being forced to marry a member of one of the conflicting party, when they leave the area and the other conflicting party came to the area, they retaliate against those women who has been married to the other parties. And this has been increased in the last time. Everywhere, girls are paying the highest price of war. Next slide, please. Here, I'm going to talk about the misuse of culture and religion. Because definitely people, when they do something out of norms, they have to justify that by culture or by religion. And there's been a great misuse of that, the post-culture and religion. There's common narratives that use that to justify these practices, that they even use proverb or even hadith or even some verses that say that get protection, and they use the riwama and the wilaya of girls and women, and they use that even the forced marriage is accepted and it's better for the protection of the girls and women, and that has been used a lot. Marriage is called protection of violence, and also we have also a lot of things about the family honor and the family properties and how to protect that, and has been used against that. Like we have the concept of a sutra, concealing girls and protecting girls, is being used a lot. And there is a lot of selective interpretation of religion and even tradition to promote early marriage. That is also like not because of lack of, men are very busy in war, they might not even be interested in having marriage, and this is a good opportunity for them, like since you have somebody to protect her and provide food, that's good for her. But in reality, the narrative erases a lot of girls' rights, and the harm is even more because of the disappearance of husband, or like even like the husband themselves, they will not be able to protect as they were expecting, and they themselves became a victim of other violence, and the girls are following into that, and that strips them of the right. Okay. Okay, but still some other people are using the progressive narrative and using of Quran and tradition to empower that, and to stop the violence against girls. Like la darar wa la dirar, no harm should be caused. So most of campaign are being used like that, and we'll start like talking about the concept of the marriage, and using also what Prophet Muhammad has been practicing, and how like when women they rejected the marriage, how Prophet Muhammad always interfere and presented the women right in that. And we talk a lot about maqasid al-sharia, because maqasid al-sharia is for the mawadda al-rahma, mercy and affection, and al-musakana, which is part of the Islamic marriage. It's not just like forcing things on that. This is like also we are using, because unfortunately Sudan law, family law in 1991 allowed the marriage of girls by age of 10. So now we are working on like addressing that article in the law, so to stop the marrying of girls by the age of 10, to protect their life and their dignity and their well-being. So marriage that causes harm, denies education, that's one of the campaign, and ignoring the consent of protection is injustice. A religious leader must be reclaimed this ground to protect girls and daughters. Okay, what can work better? Next slide, please. What can work better in this chaos that we need, like, for poor family, rather than like forcing them to sell their daughters for the price, of the bride, or for like protection or food. Though we're supposed to provide cash support, a livelihood for the families to reduce the economic pressure on them. This is one of the issue. Like even making the girls more protective, more producive, so the family will keep them better. And we have to let them know, like, find safer places for them to protect themselves rather than the marriage. And this mechanism can be delivered by the community, and schools also can provide the protection so they don't take the girls away from the school. Health and child protection services give survivors the care they need, supposed to do that, so they don't need to go and leave the care for other areas. Engaging faith leaders is very important. And also we have to use the legal aid and case management support survivors on forced marriage, on forced marriage and abduction. This intervention will lessen the risk of marrying off your daughter, and also letting the incident of pregnancy of teenage. Lastly, if I have time,
In 30 seconds, Dr. Lamia.
yes, last slide, which is the last one. Okay. To close, I want to emphasize 4 points. War and displacement are fueling child marriage and teen pregnancy, which has been documented and raised wherever there is possibility for that. Second, sexual violence, abduction, and forced marriages are happening at alarming scale as Sudan. Some people said, no, it's not alarming scale, it's just incident here and there. That's not true. In our advocacy, we have to highlight that. Cultural and religious narrative are being misused, and we have to be careful about that. We need to use Islamic principles strongly, supporting the protection of girls. And I'm so happy that SIHA and Musawa and other organizations are doing that. Fourth, responses must be urgent. We cannot wait. Girls' life at stake, and we cannot wait for like even the other intervention. We have to have an urgent, integrated, survivor-centered, and face-sensitive. Our responsibility is clear: to protect girls, not by sacrificing them, not by keeping silent, and not by giving the blind eye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lamia, for confronting just how dire the crisis in Sudan is, where child marriage is surging and culture and religion have been used and twisted to justify the abuse and control of girls. So your remarks are grounding our next steps and deepen our resolve to act, as you ended by saying we need to act now. I would now like to invite Hope, who is going to be speaking to the Ugandan context and examining how early and child marriage remains rooted in poverty, in social norms, and has linkages to gaps in service delivery, while also sharing with us around the legal and policy framework that Uganda has put in place. So Hope, if you can speak to us about how girls are navigating stigma, the school dropout rates are alarming, and yet there's limited access to adolescent-friendly services. What practical steps are needed to expand adolescent-friendly SRH services? How can grassroots movements, because you're part of the movement in Uganda, collaborate with national institutions to shift harmful social and gender norms and public attitudes? But as you're speaking to us about that, we want to understand what the legal and policy framework looks like in Uganda. Is this effective, and how is it addressing this particular issue? Over to you, Hope.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all that are listening in. I'm happy to come through and share about how we can all be part of the solution, because the facts are clear that child marriage is here. It's not only in Uganda, it's in different countries. Teenage pregnancy is around. And what do we need to do? Speaking from the Ugandan context, I want to first and foremost recognize that as soon as we realized that there was too much cases of teenage pregnancy, especially after the lockdown, and we saw that children were much safer at school than at home, because the 1 year they spent at home, we saw pregnancies escalate, and sometimes at the hands of those that are meant to protect the girls. The Ministry of Education put in place guidelines and frameworks to allow pregnant girls to resume school, which was a good move. It is a good move. It is still a good move. And for us, how we took it on quickly was to ensure, to first of all, accept that it's not easy to just say, oh, you've given birth, the baby is here, now go to class. It's not that easy. So we chose to say, let us work with schools directly, first change the mindset, or even talk to the students themselves to understand that actually some students could make an error, could become victims of teenage pregnancy, but if they ever resume school, they should never be stigmatized. So the call to allow the girls to go back to school is meant to be followed by preparing schools to actually accept these girls. So we definitely work with school administrations on how to offer safe spaces, but also create an environment that won't stigmatize this girl further. So by doing that, we have seen more girls go back to school, leave their babies at home. This doesn't just happen. It goes with a lot of actions taken, because we work with parents in the communities. So if a child has given birth, then it is fair that we talk to the mother of the girl and say, can you take care of the little baby and allow your daughter to go back to school? So that we don't now start talking about breastfeeding. Where will the girl sit at school? Where will the baby sleep when the girl is writing the notes? We had to quickly chip in to see how to support these girls to have their babies taken care of at home, and then for them, they run back to school. And it's working. If we try to work with all the people that are part of the girl's life, that's the parents, the community, the school, and the fellow students. We have seen CSOs create safe spaces for girls. This is done both out of school and in school. Through getting these girls together in the form of clubs and mentorship programs, these girls have started to accept that it's never the end. If you've given birth to a child, it should not define who you are or cut your dream short. So the clubs are giving confidence to the girls and an assurance that they can still make it in life. We work directly or in partnership with the line ministries, especially with the Ministry of Gender, to implement the national strategy to end child marriage and teenage pregnancy. This has been in place since 2015, and then the first set ended in 2022. So now we are implementing together with the Ministry of Gender the 2022-2027, the national strategy. And this works so well because many times when governments put in place these strategies, it is not possible for them to do this work alone. So I always call upon different CSOs that whatever programming we have, we must align our work with that of the government, so that these strategies which are in place are disseminated to the communities where we serve, to the districts where we serve. Some of the districts may actually not know that we have a national strategy. So if you are an organization in a particular district and your district is able to get
المقاطعة يجب أن يعلموا يمكنكم مشاركة المعلومات حتى سوية ننهي هذه الممارسات التي تترك الفتاة خارج المدرسة.
The Arabic interpretation. Okay, I think it has been fixed. Sorry, I think our translator had switched. Please go ahead, Hope. Sorry.
Have you heard what I was saying, or you didn't hear anything?
Yes,
so I can proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So that was about the national strategy to end child marriage. But now I also want to bring to your attention the national standards for parenting programs. This is also set aside by the Ministry of Gender, and it is meant to guide parents in different homes to understand that positive parenting practices is something that we must hold so dear. Some of the challenges the girls face come as a result of bad relationship between the children and the parents. So the parenting guidelines set aside by the Ministry of Gender give clear ways on how parents can work together to actually bring up this child in an acceptable way and in a loving environment. So those national standards help to redefine parenting, and also for not forgetting that some of the parents actually become parents when they are not ready. Think about girls who are raped. A girl will be raped, will give birth to a child, and every time they look at this child, they remember what they went through or the pain that this brought into their lives. So putting the guidelines of parenting also comes with educating parents that once you've had this child, then you have to look at this child as your responsibility, forget what could have happened in the past, and see how to raise this child in a loving way so that what happened to you does not actually happen to this child. And we're trying to break the cycle so that we create a future that is more favorable for children and for the parents as well. And of course, this comes with a lot of work, because parents, many times when you're doing programs, we tend to leave out parents because we think we're working for adolescent girls. So you go to school, talk to girls, go home. But unless we intentionally work with parents and involve them meaningfully, then we could actually be on a losing end. We also work directly with religious leaders. These are key stakeholders that actually can play a big role in changing mindsets. So we have had religious leaders who have become our champion, and they have actually included our message of child protection in their sermons every Sunday. So some of the parents who go to church on Sunday go with a mindset of, let me go and listen to the man of God. What is he saying? What has God sent this morning? So we are telling religious leaders, can you please talk to parents to be intentional at raising their children, to appreciate education, to know that child marriage is actually it is robbing childhoods for children. So when these parents hear it from the religious leaders, there is a way they take it in more than they would if it was only us speaking to them. So involving religious leaders and cultural leaders in this work has been very instrumental. We have worked directly with the Kabaka Foundation to speak about the importance of keeping girls in school and end child marriage. So having those key people be on our side as we front this campaign can actually bring good results. And of course, importantly, is the media. As I wind up, we realize that the work we do, we cannot reach everyone. So by working directly with the media, our message goes to people that we shall never even meet physically. So we have partnered with televisions, radio stations, where we go and share this message of child protection weekly, monthly, and many times when you are there and you get calls from faraway places, you realize that actually by speaking to these people through the media, you are able to deliver to people you can't meet physically. And of course, including how to encourage media to report in a better way. We've had challenges where media reports only when it favors them, if they want their news to be bought or newspapers to be taken, then they'll put a particular headline, which is not even good for the girl child if it's about child marriage. But we are trying to have conversations with media people to ensure that reporting is accommodative and doesn't sideline women and girls. And I think with all that, if we continue to become intentional, we are likely to see a drop in these cases. Child marriage in Uganda about 5-7 years ago was at 40%. So if it's now at 34%, that is progress. And we are believing that as we move forward, we shall continue to educate communities and masses to appreciate that we can all do something within our capacities to contribute and make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hope. And as you said, that's progress. We are hoping Uganda as a country can get to zero. That's the ideal. You also talk about the Kabaka Foundation, and I just want to share with everyone that that is a word for a king foundation in a language in Uganda. And just to re-echo that behind every dropout is a girl that is being pushed out, either by stigma, by cost, or lack of services. And keeping girls in school, as Hope has shared, is a holistic package and requires holistic, rethinking around what strategies, what approaches, and who needs to be engaged, including confidential care, to be able to break that cycle and to ensure that she has protection that she needs. So thank you so much, Hope. We will now move over to Dr. Mariam Aden in Somalia, and she's going to be reflecting on the Somali context, looking at both Somalia and Somaliland, where we have customary and religious systems that often take precedence over statutory law, and how they are harmful gender and social practices that are persisting in the guise of tradition and limiting SRHR services that increase vulnerability to girls. So Dr. Mariam, if you can speak to us about how customary, religious, and clan-based authorities are shaping narratives around marriage, girls' autonomy, what are the current SRHR access and policy barriers that you're working on, and what strategies have worked in building community trust around adolescent SRHR and protection? Over to you, Dr. Mariam.
Okay, good afternoon and good evening, good morning, everybody. I would like to share some notice. Okay, please 1 minute. First of all, I am Dr. Mariam Aden. I'm Executive Director, Women Empowerment and Development WEDO organization. I'm not taking too much time. I would like to speak in 3 points. How do customary, religious, and clan-based authority representative marriage and girls' autonomy? Somalia has endured a decade of conflict, politically unstable and recurrent natural prolonging humanitarian crisis. Many communities have been displaced internally in neighboring countries. In this context, we have a hair Somalis customary justice system plays central role into the clan elders. So in that time, we have a system plays central role in resolving dispute through clan elders, particularly where we are formal state institutions are so weak. While hair providing social stability, it has been criticized for gender bias, collective responsibility, and its compatibility with international human rights standards. In both Somalia and Somaliland, hair and religious authorities strongly shape marriage norms. Practically, like child marriage, are often presented as tradition or protection, which significantly limits girls' autonomy and decision-making. Ultimately, male elders and community endorsement determine the timing and terms of marriage, often taking precedence over the wishes of the girls themselves. In this case, we have approximately 45 of girls are married, statistically would be done before the age of 18, driven by combination of social, economic, and system barriers. Okay, first of all, we have to talk about the limited availability of adolescents of friendly SRH surface, clinically or sparse, and many health facilities do not provide confidential age-appropriate SR information or surface contraceptions. So safe pregnancy care and PEP rape care. Number 2, stigma on social constraint. Seeking SRH care can be stigmatized. Girls fear community, backlash, loss of reputation, or being labeled promiscuous, which discourage care seeking. Number 3, legal and policy gaps or ambiguity, limited or inconsistent statutory. Protectionist for minors, weak enforcement, and proposals that risk weakening child protectionist, increase vulnerability. This irregulatory uncertainty reduces providers' willingness to offer adolescent SRH service and complicates guardian consent issue. And economic and logistical barriers, or buffer like poverty, distance, transport costs, and insecurity limit. Access to health facilities, humanitarian crisis, and displacement exacerbate these factors. And decision making held by elders or guardians. Even when surfaces exist, girls need permission or face family decisions that prioritize marriage over health or schooling. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Okay.
Dr. Mariam, if you can continue to speak, I think it might be a lag with the internet, so you can continue. We'll try and get your slide back.
Yeah, it's okay, fine. So next we have to talk about what are the current SRH access and policy barrier adolescents of the girls in Somalia and Somaliland. So I would like to, I said for economic and logistic barriers, we have to told before like the distance and the poverty, it causes money gap for that thing. So it's insecurity purpose, limit access to health facilities and humanitarian crisis. So and we have to like about what strategies have worked in building community, trust around adolescent SRH and protections. First of all, we have to improve and to tell further details about main things. The first of all is engaging and co-working with customary and religious leaders. Work with elders and religious leaders rather than bypassing them facility dialogues that from SRH and terms of shared value, child survivor like family well-being and Islamic teaching on protection. And security, leader endorsement for specific protective practice. Programs that negotiate changes to customer rules succeed when elders receive benefit for community stability. So community-led social norm, intervention, dialogue, and plus role models. Like facility community dialogue that include main youth, that include main youth, elders, and service providers. Example, community care approach, so can shift norms by creating safe public space to question harmful beliefs and pilot alternative behaviors. Evidence show norm change interventions reduce acceptance of GBV and child marriage when sustained and multi-sectoral. Number 10, integrative GBV and adolescent SRH services into trust health settings. Co-locating GBV response the BC clinic for the clinical care, PEP kits legal aid, so within general health facility, reduces stigma and increases uptake health facilities. Health facilities are less controversial and then stand-alone SRH centers. This model is documentary Somali humanitarian response and GBV OR coordination. So youth engagement and safe spaces supporting adolescent girls, clubs, peer educators, and safe special build agents, so and information access when adolescents participate in designing outreach uptake and trust rise. Multi-stakeholder coordination, GPV, ORA, MOH, NGOs, community structure, coordinate strategies that combine prevention, response, reveals, and that include mapping of surface and functioning reveal pathway work best in fragile city. The GPV IORS country coordination in Somalia is example of centralized coordination is improving surface coverage despite response limited. So, Lauren, can I add one more for some notice that I noted for marriage norms?
Yes, please, in 30 seconds.
Okay, so I want now to add some viewpoints what marriage norms look like. Exactly in Somalis, marriage norms are shaped by combination of customary law and hair and Sharia, clan authority. But girls' marriage are often arranged or decided by male elders and head of households, invading family honor, alliance, and economic consideration. So practice like a child marriage are justified as tradition protection or economic security, even though they limit girls' autonomy, affect their health and education. So girls' consent is rarely prioritized community acceptance. So we did clan endorsement are decisive in Somalia, often overweighting formal law. So how we can male-dominated partially culture. So we said the world need to come out, the people understand this religious and clan-based system. So decision-making is centralized among men, clan elders, fathers, and religious leaders hold the authority over marriage, education, and health choice for girls. So customer law, hair, and sharia interpretation are applied through a male, reinforcing gender heritage. So social enforcement, men elders, men elders enforce norms through social pressure, reputation, concerning, making deviation difficult for girls or females. And so legitimation of restrictive practice, child marriage, limited mobility, unrestricted access to education or health framed as religiously or culturally appropriated. So giving particular control, moral authority. So impact girls' autonomy is restricted and community approval controlled by means of an outward statutory law or girls' personal wishes. So we have made some statistics to show us the age of this accretion below the age of 12. So Somali demography and health surveys in 2023 reports on key indicators such as fertility. So maternal and child health and child marriage, specifically it's noted around 45 of girls are married before age of 18. However, the survey does not provide detailed disaggregation for girls under 12 age. So while the overall figure includes very young adolescents, exact statistics for those under 12 are not specified. So thank you everybody for listening for me.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. And just to relay what you've said, reminding us that the social and political life is organized around the patrilineal and clans, sub-clans, where authority sits largely with the male elders, as you've said, and the religious leaders, and all the disputes, anything to do with child, forced marriage, rape, is settled through customary agreements negotiated between these clans, as you've rightly put it, they prioritize reconciliation over compensation over individual rights. And in this system, women are represented by male guardians and not as independent individuals or actors. They rarely sit on elders' councils, and decisions about their lives are often made for them. And we know what this eventually translates into. A number of these cases are resolved through payments or clan bargains. So thank you so much for taking us through what happens in Somalia, Somaliland. 45% is horrible, and it's one of the highest across the globe. Before I go to Dr. Budmas, I just want to ask that anyone that would like to contribute to this conversation, please use the chat function to share your experience, the work you're doing, any best practices and what's working. There are a number of questions that have been raised for our panelists. The panelists will go to the chat function and respond to your questions because there are quite a many. So I would like on this note to invite Dr. Budmas Faizad, who is SIHA's Regional Program Manager, to make some comments, having listened to our three panelists. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and many thanks to our excellent speakers, Dr. Lima, Dr. Marian, and Hope, for the depth and clarity of your reflection. You've greatly captured the essence of this conversation. And what we've heard today, paints a very, very clear picture that whether in Sudan, Uganda, or Somalia, or across the Horn, the drivers of early marriage and teen pregnancies are multiple, but interconnected. So we've heard on poverty, conflict, harmful social norms, gaps in the legal protection, and weak access to adolescent-friendly SRH services. I think when we look at it a little bit further and across the three countries, one trend that continuously runs, and something that I heard, was also the law. And whether absent or ignored or misapplied, sits at the heart of this crisis. So as Dr. Leima was saying, in Sudan, for example, the conflict has amplified child marriage and teenage pregnancy. But if we look even before the conflict, the gaps in the law allowed for these harmful practices to persist. So religious and cultural narratives are often invoked to justify early marriage. And as Dr. Leima clearly said, if we look at Islamic jurisprudence, the principles such as la darar wa la dirar, the principle of no harm, and then the Masadik al-Sharia, the objectives of Sharia, and the centrality of consent, right? All demands that protections of girls' well-being, their dignity, and their education. So the context of early Islam, where social health and life expectancy realities were very different, cannot be used as a timeless justification for the practices that harm children today. So this is why, we advocate for codification and reinterpretation, and they're very critical to move family law forward. Leaving family law to be vague or to be selective, or the selective interpretation leaves girls vulnerable to protection. In Somalia as well, we had the Provisional Constitution commits to upholding international human rights standards. However, the sexual offenses bill that has been stalled for years, in some of the drafts, we've seen that the minimum age of marriage is set as 15, and even courts are empowered to determine the age of maturity. This undermines the very spirit of protection and opens the door to child marriage under legal cover. Here, legal reform must go hand in hand with shifting norms. We've heard Dr. Mariam speak very clearly about the social norms and the clan-based system and how it affects it. Because without the social change, the law alone will be weak. However, without the law as well, communities lack the framework to push for accountability. As Hope has also said, the Uganda angle illustrates another angle for us. Looking at the minimum age of marriage, which is very clear. There's also policies like the reentry framework that exist, but enforcement is very inconsistent. Stigma persists. Adolescent-friendly SRH services remain inadequate. And this kind of points us to the direction that having laws on paper is not enough. We also need investment in the implementation of, in the awareness and in the reshaping public attitudes. So when we look at everything together and what we've heard, what does this mean for us as feminists and as advocates? I'll give 5 or 6 points. The first one is that where laws are ambiguous or based on customary or religious interpretation, we must advocate for the codification and clearly in line with constitutional and human rights standards based on each of our contexts. Ambiguity is what sustains harmful practices. Second, we have to look at the contextual reinterpretation because religious texts must be read with today's realities in mind. The misapplication of Sharia to justify child marriage ignores the very principles of dignity, health, and consent that Islamic law is meant to uphold. Third, we have to look at where law exists, our struggles shifts to norms. So if we've already have laws in place, like in Uganda, then we have to shift to norms. We have to end stigma against pregnant adolescent girls and ensuring that enforcement in Somalia and Sudan, for example, required broad-based awareness campaigns, community engagement, and accountability mechanisms. On the fourth point, girls are being denied agency, autonomy, and the chance to determine their future. So it goes beyond protection, but also about power and justice. So we also have to think about solutions that any of the solutions that we're implementing has to be survival-centered and explicitly feminist in approach. We must also think about engaging men and young fathers in upgrading of their children so that all the weight does not fall on the mothers. On the fifth point, looking again beyond protection, immediate protection, we have to think about cash and livelihood support, adolescent-friendly health services, education continuity, and protection monitoring, because these are not optional extras that we put on the side. We must look at integrated responses because they're essential pillars for prevention and recovery. And lastly, as we are doing on this call, which is bringing all the regions and all the countries together, regional solidarity matters. Across the Horn, we cannot treat these as isolated national struggles. We've heard how in Uganda it continues to persist. We've heard in Sudan how it continues to persist. And I'm sure across the other countries who are not on this call as well. So legal reform in one country also strengthens advocacy in another, because we can use that as an example, and especially where faith-based arguments are shared across border. In closing, I'd just like to emphasize that for us to break the cycle of early marriage, teenage pregnancy, it requires courage to confront the harmful norms, resources to sustain the alternative pathways for girls, and accountability from states, religious leaders, and international actors alike. Girls in our region deserve more than protection. They also deserve the full spectrum of rights, including education, bodily autonomy, and futures of their choosing. They get to choose what their future looks like. And for legal reform, it goes beyond technical amendments, but ensuring that the law reflects justice, dignity, and the lived realities of our girls, and not selective readings of tradition or outdated norms. Thank you. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Dr. Badmas, for commenting, adding your insights in there, and sharing, with us all the useful evidence that you've presented. I am looking at the chat, and I would like to thank all of you that are contributing to this. I can see that there is a comment saying, from Helen, early and teenage pregnancy doesn't only rob girls of their childhood, limits opportunities, silences their voices, and perpetuates cycles of poverty and exclusion. Thank you for contributing. Beatrice, you talk about the fact that in Uganda, senior women and senior men teachers have also been used as a strategy in schools. There is a comment from Gailey. That's a question that will be responded to by the panelists, and you're asking about how to effectively engage with the religious leaders. I see Dr. Lamia has responded. Peter, we will have some feedback from the South Sudan hub. We have activists, we have women leaders and civil society joining in from Juba and WOW. So we'll have an opportunity later on in the webinar to listen in from across the Horn of Africa, where we have 6 hubs listening in and joining in. So thank you so much. And for the questions in Arabic, we also have SIHA colleagues that will be responding to those questions in Arabic. So please keep the questions coming. In the Q&A, there is a question from Peace Chamureku directly to Hope Natkunda. So I would like to request that you respond to that question. At this point, I would like to invite us to participate in a poll question. This is a poll question, an opportunity for everyone that is joining both online and in person to contribute to this conversation. So we have an online poll question that is going to be coming up. We have a QR code, so you can either respond to it through that or a link, and it has been translated in Amharic, Arabic, and Somali. And we would like to ask everyone that is joining, what's one effective approach, lesson, or local initiative in your context that has helped reduce early marriage or teenage pregnancy, and why you think it has worked. This is a learning space, and we'll be able to collect all this feedback and share it across, as well as the presentations, for us to be able to learn from each other. What has worked, what's working, what's promising, and why. So please, if you can turn to your screen, there is a question. Choose a language of preference, either in Amharic, Arabic, Somali, or in English. We'll have 2 minutes for the poll question, and then we will open this up for questions and answers. We have 1 more minute to respond to the poll question. If you're joining from the hubs, we will have some forms passed around if you'd like to fill them out on a piece of paper. Otherwise, please use the QR code or a link. Okay, I think we've given 2 minutes to filling out the poll question. Thank you so much to everyone that has been able to contribute to this conversation. I would now like to open up the Q&A to anyone that has a question. I will start with online participants and then we'll go around to the in-country hubs for any questions that we have. So is there anyone joining in online that has a question, a comment, a contribution to this conversation? Okay, I will come back to online participants. I'll now move on to the hubs. So we will be starting with Addis. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments to contribute to this conversation. So over to you, Addis, in Ethiopia. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a very insightful conversation. My name is Dr. Rafi Panaselo. I'm from Addis, joining the discussion with SIHA. Part of the discussion has been we're trying to address what are the causes of this early marriage and teenage pregnancy, as well as what to do next or what our next steps should be. From the Ethiopian context, what we have discussed is that the causes can be narrowed down to 2 particular causes. One is these traditional practices that are quite integrated into the community and very hard to tackle because early marriage is not legal in the country, but in areas where early marriage is practiced, the legal system knows about it, the police force knows about it, but no one is doing anything to tackle these problems. So it's one of the things that have been hard to tackle. And the second one, and the point that has been raised by everyone, is security issue or conflict. Now, you know that for the last 3 years, Ethiopia has been having conflicts, and the conflict itself has increased the prevalence of early marriage and teenage pregnancy by various causes. One of it is part of the conflict because during the war, women and children were the I guess I can say primary sources of targets. Gender-based violence has been quite common in those areas, and women have reported more rape and gender-based violence during this time. The second part that conflict has played a role in this is because rape was quite prevalent in that area. The parents would rather arrange child marriages so that they can have a man to protect them or to avoid the stigma that their children are being raped. So it has played quite an important role in the prevalence of early marriage. At the same time, because education was stopped during that time and because of the displacement, teenagers have come to urban areas to be the breadwinners for the families and to help them. And instead, because of lack of guidance and protection, they have been victims of rape in urban areas. So the prevalence has increased quite a lot. Another factor that we don't quite address a lot of times is while we're trying to tackle these problems, we have actually been ignoring the main ideas or the main causes of these things, and we've actually made it worse because studies have now shown that the age of early marriage is decreasing when compared to previous years. So the things we're to tackle these problems aren't working actually. And there are quite a lot of points we've raised on how that has been happening. One is that we're not using as influential people to break into the communities to address these problems. So yes, religious leaders are part of the solution, but in how many of these platforms are those people actually included? Those are the people that are the voices, because the communities are, for instance, in Ethiopia, traditional practices are quite integrated into religious practices. So it's with these religious leaders that we can actually have conversations with the people and make them and get through to them. Another one is that during this advocacy and the steps we're taking to tackle this problem, we haven't been consistent in trying to address the problems because when there's funds, yes, we work on issues, we advocate, we do a lot of projects, but when the funds are not there, we don't address these problems. So either we're not laying a strong enough foundation to tackle these problems, or we should start being consistent with what we're doing. Another one is the anti-rice movement, which is actually affecting a lot of sectors, and this is the main part that's actually being ignored. So on our way forward, what we can do is we should revise on how we're doing the things and how we're tackling the problems. One is advocacy. I know this has been said 100 times, but we should have community awareness programs on advising community leaders and on how to prevent these things, to tackle these problems, and so that these community leaders can go back to the community and spread the word and have more discussions on what are the problems, what can be done. Another part is, so literacy has an indirect relation with the early marriage. So in areas where there is a broader service of literacy, the age of early marriage is actually high. For instance, in our country, in Addis Ababa, where literacy is quite, I guess I can say, predominant, the age of marriage is 24. While, for instance, in Amhara region, the northern part of Ethiopia, the age of early marriage is the age of marriage is 14 years old. So there's an indirect relationship with literacy and early marriage. So by taking our children back to school, by making sure that education is as important as the effect, we should spread the coverage of education. That is, and also when we also take back these kids to school, we should also teach them on teenage pregnancy, because it's almost stigmatized. It's not something we address as common as it is. It's not something we talk to these children about. So we have to educate them how to protect themselves. Okay, how to address the next step if they face gender-based violence. When these kids are raped, they don't know what to do next. So they don't know who to report to. They don't know what to do when they find out that they're pregnant. We have to make sure that they know that their reproductive rights is in their hands, and we have to make sure that they know on the next steps they take. And the next part is we also need to include these victims into the conversations, into the dialogues we have. We can't just read about these things from the surface and speak for them. They have their voices for themselves. So we should include them in the conversation, the dialogues, and the next step to take. They are the main parts. And I think they will bring an insight, something we haven't seen so far. And so I think that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for these conversations.
Thank you so much, Addis Ababa Hub. That was brilliant. And thank you so much for contributing to this conversation and also sharing your experience in the different regions within Ethiopia. And right where you ended, talking about bringing survivors' voices to this conversation, I'm now going to go to South Sudan, where we'll have a brief summary from one of the women leaders that's joining in, but we also have survivors that are part of this conversation, and we want to hear from them around what they feel needs to be done. So I'll be going straight to Juba in South Sudan, and then we'll have WOW in South Sudan. So if you have any questions, this is an opportunity to ask. But if you're also providing summaries from your in-country conversations, just like we've done with Addis Ababa, please go ahead. And I know that we have some survivors that are happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much. And I'll be coming back to Arua after that. So over to you guys in Juba.
Okay, my name is Josephine.
Juba, have we hear an echo? Okay, we can try again.
Okay, my name is Josephine.
Okay, I would like to request that you mute the mics in the room. If anyone else is joining using another laptop, phone, probably to have responded to the poll question, kindly mute your mics. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Josephine. I'm 17 years old. I just came here to experience my feelings. So I'm coming here to experience what I felt. So I just want to talk about more, just short and brief about my life, my lifestyle, and okay, and what I'm feeling right now. So I'm here just to start it and okay. I'm here just to come to so I'm going to start out to talk about myself.
It's okay. I don't know if there is a SIHA colleague that can come and sit next to her. We do understand that this...
Am I audible enough? All right, thank you so much. My name is Diko Janet Isaac. I'm a very passionate advocate for young people, especially young girls. And in the context of South Sudan, I think the stories that most countries have been able to share, the stories from Somaliland, the stories from Sudan, are almost the same stories that many girls from South Sudan are experiencing. I think as a young person or as a woman in South Sudan, we might not have experienced certain kind of things, maybe early marriages, forced child marriages, but at one point in our lives, we might have experienced through our friends, through our sisters. Growing up as a young girl in South Sudan, I remember days when I was very young, maybe secondary, primary school. I would go to school and then the context changes because when we go for holidays, you find some of your friends don't come back. And then you come to find that maybe they went to the villages, they were forced for early child and marriages. Josephine was trying to share her story, and at one point she broke down. And I don't know if I'm not also going to break down sharing her story. I'm going to try. So she has told us her age. She's 17 years old. And then she got pregnant. But when she got pregnant, at one point, she got beaten by the brothers. And then they wanted her to go to the person that got her pregnant. And upon arriving that place where she went to, where the husband was staying, the man was nowhere to be seen. He disappeared. So they tried looking for the husband, they tried looking for the man, and he was nowhere to be seen. Until today, they are not in touch. So now what happens is whenever this kind of incidences happen, first of all, she's no longer going to school. She's in senior 3, but at the moment she's not going to school. Why? Because the school does not allow her to continue because of her state. That is one. And then coming to the family side, there's a lot of stigma and rejections and denials. When the incident happened, her brothers had to deal with her, and then her auntie had to intervene, trying to give her the protection. But as South Sudanese, we live in a patriarchal society where it's always the men that dominate. And whenever the women try to speak, they are silenced. Why? Because they're just women, and they're always told, Itamara, suck it. And that becomes a challenge. But then when the issue was solved, and then she had to stay at home, so one of her uncles is saying, if he finds her in that house, he's going to kill her. Okay? So now this is the situation. So at the moment, she's not in that house, and then she was taken to the one-stop center where she was given a bit of help. And at the moment, she's now staying in Gudele. So today, this is Josephina's story, and this is a story that has had a platform that is shared. And when we go outside there are a lot of girls that are going through the same things. Now, the question is, what is being done? I remember there was a question that was put out here about the effective approaches and the lessons and the initiatives that can work in our context. I think in the context of South Sudan, it's very important for us to prioritize education. And in this education, there's need for us to have a comprehensive sexuality education that is integrated in schools. I am a peer educator. Sometimes I go to schools, I talk to young girls, I talk to young boys. But most times when you go to those schools, it becomes a challenge because the schools will tell you, why are you teaching our children about sex? Why do you want it? Adoption? That is what they always say. So they tell us that we are spoiling these kids, but the concept is we are trying to give them information on how they can protect themselves. Because coming from South Sudan, rooted in our cultures, our mothers do not openly speak to us about sex, about what we're supposed to do, even about menstruation. They don't talk to us. So you find that most times we go out and get that information either from our friends, from our colleagues, or even from the schools where the senior teachers, senior women teachers have to give us that information. Now, when we don't get this information from school, it becomes a challenge to all of us. I think that's something that I just wanted to briefly reflect on, and just in addition to her story. And then another thing that can also be very outstanding is if we have a clearly defined age that allows a girl maybe to go get married. In the context of South Sudan, we have the Child Charter that has not been ratified up to today. And this is a document that if it's signed by the government, it can be able to protect these girls, because we know that, yes, this is the age that a girl is supposed to go to school. But now that this has happened to her, we can either keep her in school or leave her out. Otherwise, the government declared free education for primary schools, but then the schools is also not very effective. There are parents that will tell you the reason why they are forcing their girl to get married is because they do not have money to send this girl to school. But now that the government has made education to be free for primary schools, it's a challenge because the schools have been compromised. Sometimes the schools go off for a very long time. I need to share from the context of South Sudan, and in addition to the story of Josephine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, South Sudan in Juba, for sharing with us Josephine's story. We do understand that this is a very painful and traumatic experience for her, and will continue to support her. I know SIHA runs a one-stop center, and we hope that many other survivors that can continue to be part of these conversations and access the support that they need. Thank you so much, Josephine, for being brave and courageous and joining us. We do send you so much love, and we'll continue to stand with other survivors like you in solidarity. I would now like to move to South Sudan in WOW. You had conversations to contribute to this webinar. Over to you, South Sudan in WOW. If you can share with us what's happening there, your experiences, the work that you've been doing, and I know you also have a survivor who'd like to be part of this conversation, so we'll have some space for that. Over to you in WOW.
السلام عليكم. أنا بسلم لكم كلكم. أنا اسمي مريم القنجو. أنا جاي شواو. كان برنامج بتاعي كان بدأ من 16 سنة. أنا حملت من 16 سنة. زمان حملت راجل جرافات وخلاني. أبوي يومي شالوني ومسوا مسؤولية حقي. رجعوني في بيت وأنا قاعد ماما في بيت. بعد ما ولدت دوني نون ستوب سنتر.
May I just interrupt? Sorry, can I interrupt? I don't hear English translation. And there is also an echo in the room.
My
name is Maryam. I can't hear her properly. I'm sorry. Her mic is not working properly.
Okay, if we can, the translator says there is an echo in the room. We can try again.
I was pregnant. I fell pregnant at 16, but I was abandoned. And I was abandoned by this man, and my parents had to take care of me. I had to stay with my parents until I gave birth. And then I went to the one-stop center, and everything was okay. I was supported, and it was for free. And now this person who got me pregnant has been imprisoned, and he's been fined. I don't have a lot to say, but I just want to advise my friends. I want to advise them, if you have fallen pregnant or if you haven't fallen pregnant, falling pregnant at a young age impacts your future. So I feel that I have no future because of this unwanted pregnancy. And I just want to reiterate that it's important that if you do fall pregnant, you do have the possibility of going to the one-stop centers and gaining the support that you need. They help you. They actually do all the investigations, all the medical investigations, and you have your ultrasounds. So this is a positive aspect. However, I just want to reiterate that I want to warn my fellow young friends that you need to listen to your parents. You need to try and avoid unwanted pregnancy. I now have a child who has grown, but it's only through the help of my family, through my support by my family members.
My name is Tekla. Thank you, my sister Mariam, for sharing your experience with us. We are going to go through how breaking the cycles of early marriage and early pregnancy in Western Bahar al-Ghazal, as we are talking about our context in Western Bahar al-Ghazal. As a team, we have come out with some points whereby we're going to share as the factors or the causes that really affect participate in early marriages and early pregnancy. First of all, we have the poverty, which is the main causes of early marriage and early pregnancy in our state. Then coming to the peer groups impacts, which is really so impacting and so influencing our young girls who are really in our state. Then coming to the cultural and norms, which are so harmful, some cultural norms whereby they used to get to marry their daughters at a younger age, sometimes which is so affecting. And coming to the religious, they are religious whereby also girls are married at teenage age. Coming to the delay in salaries payment, this is according to the South Sudan context, and it's affecting really our state. People used to have this issue of delayed payment of the salaries. Coming to the girls who are orphanage, who lost their parents, their mom and dad, and are being influenced by the caretakers to make them get married at their early ages. Coming also at our context, we have whereby we are living far from some certain places where there is access to school. So sometimes distance also can participate in early marriages and early pregnancy. Coming to the family, encouraging to their daughters to get married early, because sometimes there are some families whereby they see their neighbors, there are other families whereby they see that there are some younger girls who are getting married. So sometimes they to have this kind of influencing or encouraging the younger daughters to get married also. Coming to lack of follow-up by the families. Some families, they don't have that kind of follow-up to their children. Where are they going to? What are they doing? Regard to the current hardship that people are going through. So also it's participate in early marriages and early pregnancy. To the family divorce, which is so common in WOW. Lack of provision of needs by the family, and it also goes under the poverty, because whereby there's some families that cannot provide all the necessary needs for their daughters. So sometimes it's contribute in early marriages and early pregnancy. Coming to social status and modernization, which is also one of the contributing factors to early marriages and early pregnancy. Then the intergenerational gap, whereby the families and the children, they don't have that kind of interaction. They don't sit down, they don't address issues, they don't have kind of advices to the children. Also, is one of the contributing factors. Coming to limited awareness about the disadvantage of early marriages and early pregnancy. Those are the factors or the causes that leads to early marriages and early pregnancy in our state. Coming also to the impact, how it impacts or how it affects young girls. Sometimes it brings that kind of complication to the young girls because their bodies are not well built. So during that complication, sometimes it may lead to death while giving birth, and sometimes it may also cause fistula. They may encounter fistula while giving birth. Number 3, we have they don't have that kind of awareness of how to take care of their younger ones or their children. Sometimes it may cause trauma to them, and sometimes those kind of trauma and stress may lead to them getting suicide or getting mad or causing them some other psychological problems. Also, they may lead to divorce because at the younger age, when they are being given out to men, being married early, sometimes they may not be having that kind of responsibility, of that kind of ideas whereby how to handle families. So it may lead to divorce, or even it may lead to this kind of violence that many people may encounter at home. Also, it may lead to drop out of the schools, limited opportunities to work. Sometimes in our communities, if a girl is being married or got pregnant at younger age, sometimes she may not be respected by the communities because the communities may think that she's a kind of girl that doesn't have that value in the community, so she will not be respected. And the most important thing that we can see that this kind of early marriages and early pregnancy can deny a girl from her childhood, because we know that at that age she's a child. She's supposed to have all the rights as a child, to be given that kind of responsibilities, everything. But at that certain situation, she may be denied from her childhood. Also, coming to the laws that we have in South Sudan that talks about early marriages. In our context, we don't have laws that protects girls' early marriages. We have a constitution. That constitution did not identify the specific age or marriageable age for young girls in our country. We have a customary law which was passed in our state, but the customary law also does not talk about the marriageable age. It only talks about the compensation when it happens, the marriageable age and the early pregnancy, but it does not have that is specific what that can talk about or charge that can be done to early marriages. Only what the charges that we used to have is the in section 247, it is open as a rape cases. That is in case whereby the girl is younger, underage, less than 18, or also sometimes we used to use the Child Act to judge under certain situations. Coming to the recommendations, we have some recommendations whereby we have agreed to have the amendment of the Constitution. In the Constitution of South Sudan, we are requested to be amended, and the age, marriageable age, should be identified clearly in the Constitution, so that we know at what certain age should a girl be married out. Then we have also awareness raising on the disadvantage of early marriages to the communities, at the schools, at churches, everywhere where there's a certain gathering. We need to have that kind of awareness raising on the disadvantage of early marriages and early pregnancy. Also, we need to have the implementation of the customary laws. The customary law is there. We have it, but yeah, for the customary law, we say we don't have a certain what that talks about or charges that in regard to the early marriages. So we are requesting to be added in the customary law. Then we need the reactivation of the local government law, and we need to have a special training to the mothers, especially mothers at the grassroots level, because those are some mothers who doesn't have that information about the disadvantage of early marriages and early pregnancy. And we also request for the law specifically for early marriages and pregnancy. Also, we are requesting for family law, which we know that it is still under process, but we are requesting it to be established so that it can help our girls in order to have their rights. Coming to the establishment of informal schools, whereby we'll have our elderly mother who have experience, knowledge on the impact of early marriages, early pregnancies, can come and advise girls at the school levels so that they can be good mothers, good leaders in their communities. So up to here, I can say thank you so much. I'm Tekla Batisutelo.
Thank you so much, South Sudan women leaders, women's rights organizations, groups, and I also want to say very specially thank you to the teen mothers that we have in the room in Wow. And to Mariam, thank you very much for your courage. And let's hold what Mariam has shared with us with care and confidentiality. And we have so much gratitude and respect, Mariam. And to Josephine in Juba, your presence mattered. And if you'd like to talk to us, talk to the colleagues in the room, or talk to anyone one-on-one, there'll be someone to provide support to you there. So thank you so much, South Sudan, for your contribution in this webinar. I would now like to invite Uganda in Arua to be part of this conversation. So over to you in Arua.
Okay, hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
From Arua, we're going to start with a story from a survivor. Then after one of the participants will now make his summary.
Come. Come, I give you the mic.
As we have Arua setting up, I would like to request our colleagues in Mogadishu and Hagesa to get ready. I'll be coming to you next. Okay, over to you, Lillian.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Lenya Sophie. I'm going to talk about my experience of being a child mother. When I conceived, I was 18 years old. And when I was pregnant, the father of the child denied me and the baby. But my family took care of me, supported me. And when I gave birth to the child, my parents were the ones supporting me. Now, from my experience, from everything that I faced, I've made up my mind that I will never, ever do such a thing like this. This has taught me a very good lesson. And I'll keep on advising my fellow friends who are outside, who have not got child. I'll tell them that there's no need for them to get pregnant at an early age, because it has taught me a lesson. You face what you never expected in your life. You see things challenging yourself. People insult you. that has been a very good lesson to me, and I've made up my mind that I'll never do such a thing again until I be stable in my life.
Thank you so much for being courageous, sharing with us your experience. I can imagine it was very difficult and painful. And as this campaign is dubbed, it's not your fault. We hope you'll get all the support that you need in Arua. And thank you so much for being very courageous and coming to share with us your story. Arua,
Hello?
Lillian, we
Yes.
now have
Hello?
1 minute for you to be able to summarize the conversations you've been having.
Hello, am I clear?
Yes, please go
Yes,
ahead.
yes. I am just built direct to the causes of teenage pregnancy and early marriages. We discussed one of the causes is lack of sexuality education, lack of appropriate sexuality education. This is where children are supposed to be taught about sexuality so that they are not taken by surprise. Then two, we discussed about peer pressure. And you realize that these girls, because of peer pressure, they end up doing what they're not supposed to do. Because if you don't do it, they give you all sorts of names. Maybe you are infertile, you're what, all those things. So because of that pressure, they end up doing it, and in the process, they get pregnant, leading to early pregnancies. We look at the sexual abuse in the name of defilement. These perpetrators defile these young girls, and when they're in their danger zones, they end up getting pregnant, hence leading to early pregnancy and teenage pregnancies. We also look at what we call cultural practices. The bad culture, this culture is very good, but there are some bad cultural practices. For example, forced marriages and early marriages, which lead to pregnancies. We also look at influence of media. For example, exposure of sexual influence without guidance. Children end up getting pregnant through that. Parental neglect. Most parents have now left their jobs to teachers. They have shunned away from their responsibilities as parents. But I'm happy that the government, through the Ministry of Gender, Labor, Education, and as they develop parental guidelines, which are helping the parents to now bring up their children. But because of lack of that, children end up getting pregnant at an early age. There's so limited access to education and sexual reproductive health rights. This also led to teenage pregnancies in our communities. I also have a big problem with night discourse. Here, they call them local dabbies. Children go for these dabbies, and in the process, they end up getting pregnant because they go and associate with people of all kinds. We'll look at consequences of these early pregnancies. One, we talked of health risks, for example, obstructed labor. Also talk of risk like getting STIs. Then also education disruption, because when a child gets pregnant, especially in the context of Arua here, they hardly continue with education. They hardly continue with education. And then the poverty circles. People are living in poverty, and because of this, the children cannot afford certain basics, and by that they end up getting it through from other people who end up taking advantage of them by using them, hence getting pregnant and early pregnancies. So also have psychological effects, which are associated with the early pregnancies. Also have high infant and maternal mortality. When a child gets pregnant at an early age, there is a possibility that they may end up losing their lives. We have social problems like broken families, child neglect, among others. We also have ignorance of the law. Let me delve now into the prevention or the recommendations. We need to have what we call comprehensive sexuality education. This will help the girls learn about these things so that they don't learn them by being victims. They should be taught from home, even at school, even the community, wherever we are, we should teach them about this. Then parental guidance and open communication. The minister developed guidelines that are for positive parenting, and by openly talking to the children, communicating with them openly, guiding them, we end up mitigating such pregnancies. Also have strengthening laws against defilement. Yes, in Uganda, it's criminal to have sex with a child who is below the age of 18, and the punishment is very harsh. That's the life imprisonment, which must be strengthened. Access to adolescent-friendly health services. These spaces must be created for the girls so that they can walk in out to access these services to mitigate risks of getting pregnant at an early age. We also have empowerment programs. For example, skilling of the girls so that they are, so they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So when a girl is skilled, she'll never be idle, and therefore she'll never be associated with such risks of getting pregnant. We also have community awareness campaigns. We do constant community aware campaigns through barazas, through the radio talk shows, televisions, and all that, creating awareness among the communities about the importance of being safe by not involving in sex at an early age, and also the risks associated with that through awareness creation. We also have economic empowerment. We also had that one of the causes of the early pregnancy is the poverty. So when we empower them economically, they'll be able to support themselves, hence reducing the risk of getting pregnant at an early age. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much to the RUA team for those contributions. We will now be going to Somalia, Mogadishu, to share with us some of the discussions they've been having. But I also wanted to make a comment there that it's never her fault, and we should not use examples about her being idle to justify an abuse on herself. So we just need to keep in mind that, you know, it's risky for girls and women anywhere and everywhere inside her own home where she trusts people might, you know, come on her. So I just wanted to clarify that one point, but otherwise we will be moving on to the Somali region, to Mogadishu. And then for the panelists, I'll be coming back to you. If there is one or two questions you have not responded to and you'd like to respond to, I'll be coming back to you and we'll have a closing remark.
Hi, Lauren.
As director.
Can you
So
confirm?
Yes,
Can you
we can.
confirm if you can? Okay, thank you so much. Here is Nasra, and she's gonna summarize for us. Go ahead, Nasra.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nasra. It's an honor to speak today a very important topic, which is the breaking the early marriage.
Dear translator, she's gonna speak in English, so need for translation.
Yes, that's okay, Rashida. Somali is fine. We have interpretation.
Hello, my name is Nasra. It's an honor to speak today an important topic, early marriage, and in Somalia, this issue is not only a health, in Somalia, it is not only a health concern, but also a social and cultural. Statistics show that the Somali girls mostly married before the age of 18, which is actually a challenge to a girl who becomes a mother in early, it's often unable, and also it cannot compete the lifestyles, whether it is schooling, economic independency, or other styles. Also, there is a challenge, which there are a lot of challenges in Somalia. Most of girls that married for early marriages are dying maternal process, and this is actually a challenge to us. As a team, we agreed to break this cycle into 3 levels. The first level is education. Every Somali girl has the right to go to school and finish her education, because when the girl is educated, they marry later and have a family and have healthier families. Secondly is policy and protection. Somalia needs strong laws and the amendment of the constitutional law of Somalia, because right now there is no a clear article that says the girls can marry exact age. So we need to also amend the constitutional law and then the law. The last one is awareness and community engagement. Communities must understand that forcing and marrying into early marriages are actually a challenge and it's not good. Thank you very much for letting me to summarize the Somalia, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing that summary from Mogadishu. We will cross over to Hargeisa, Somaliland.
Sorry, Lauren, there's no hub in Hargeisa today. It's only on Mogadishu.
Okay. All right, that's well noted. I will now come back to our panelists. There were a number of questions that were asked. If there is one or two questions you'd like to respond to, I'll start with Dr. Lamia.
Yes, please. I received like one question from one partner, Ibtihal, about how can we utilize the religious leaders in advocating for women's rights during this war. The question is very valid, but everything during war is not impossible, but it's not easy. And things are not being there as usual. Even you can notice from other presentations that Sudan's situation is peculiarly different from others, because while there is war going on, you cannot provide as you would like to do. But still we have the opportunity that now in certain areas in Sudan where there is connectivity, people even in diaspora and inside Sudan, out Sudan are now utilizing the religious leader using the social media to advocate for the right of women of not to be married off at very early age, and also advocating for protection of women. Other thing that you have volunteers that are working among IDP camps that promote this kind of things. And I also highlighted to Ibtihal the initiative that SIHA is now adopting, working with Musawa in training 30 women that are members of women-led organization on how to use a progressive interpretation of Quran to empower women during the conflict zone. And this is working very, 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 very well. And I'm quite sure other organizations are doing the same things. So, but one of the issues that, because also the conflicting party or the warring parties are using religion for the causes of the war itself. So sometimes we have two like conflicting messages that coming from those who support the violence of women and those who are against it. But definitely by using the right way of like using the ethical framework of Islam, those who are supporting women from a progressive point of view will succeed. That's in short. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lamia. And I'll come back to you to give your final closing. I'll now go to Hope. I saw a number of comments and questions. One was from Peace Chamureku about how you're connecting to rural communities in Uganda, and she gave an example of a group in Bakuli. And then Faith, you raised an important issue around the influence that musicians and social media is having on teenagers. So Hope, if you can speak to these two questions and any other question that was in the chat.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone that has shared with us. It's been amazing listening to different people from different countries. To the girls we cheer you on. It's not the end. You have a future, whole of it bright ahead of you. So about partners in rural areas, actually, yes, one thing I think I have taken so seriously is working in partnerships and collaborations, because the issue we are addressing is almost in every district, every village. So the more we work together, the more we get solutions together. So I believe in collaborations. I've been a big part of the Girls Not Brides Uganda network, which brings together about 144 organizations that are working specifically to end child marriage. I currently chair the Brave Movement. Brave Movement mainly works to address issues of childhood sexual violence, and just to know that child marriage is sexual violence, because these are girls that are not supposed even to consent to sex, no matter which language you use. So as long as the girl is below the age of 18 and is a mother, there has been childhood sexual violence. So we bring together different organizations addressing those issues so that we can consolidate our solutions together, but also avoid duplication of work. So if you are in Uganda and you'd want to get into a network that gets people together to share knowledge, to share best practices, to share stories of change, I am open to having you join these networks. I think at some other level, I had to found a network called Wezesha Girls Network. And specifically, I did that because I realized that many young organizations were missing out on becoming members of different networks because there were so many requirements attached to becoming a member. And it would disturb me because someone is coming to learn and be empowered, but you ask them for so many documents that they can't even find. So I had to start with Wezesha Girls Network that brings together young organizations, and we help them to get the key documents they need to even start doing the work they have to do. So networking is one thing I recommend for you all. Reach out to people who have networks and join them. You have no idea how much it is to belong to a partnership that is addressing the same issue that you are also addressing. And two, whenever you join a network, please let it never be about what you shall bring to the net, you shall get from the network, because that is where we lose the point. Many people join networks because they are looking for money. So when they get into the network and they don't see money, they feel like they've lost their time and energy. But look at what you yourself bring into the network. And once you do that, you realize that you are actually getting out so much more than even what you're bringing in. So let's be intentional. These days, even donors want to support you if you belong to networks. It's one of the questions they worked asking different proposals. Which networks do you belong to? Even when you're responding to donors or writing reports, they want to know, during the time they have supported you, have you joined any network? So take it as a serious issue and look out for networks that can hold your hand and work with you as you work to address these issues. Then another question was about how do you engage religious leaders? I think the first and foremost that you need to pick is that as long as you're having engagements at community level, at national level, at family level, always reach out for a religious leader and say, I have a meeting. Can you please come and be present? Because sometimes what we want them to talk about, we have not even explained to them. So for us, we are intentional. We call them in our meetings. We get them to be part of our panels. We get them to be part of our champions, so that when they ask them, they won't say they don't understand what we are asking them. No, we have taken them through the processes and they know exactly why they must be part and parcel of the campaign to end child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I think that's enough for now. I'm looking at the time. Thank you.
Yes, and in 30 seconds, Hope, your closing remarks. I will not be coming back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to appreciate SIHA Network for reaching out to me and giving me the opportunity to share with people from different parts of the Africa itself. I love sharing knowledge. I love learning. And I want to challenge each one of you on this call that whenever you have an opportunity to share what you know, do not look back, because you don't know how much that means to a person who is yearning to get that information. So I just want to ask you to continue working so hard to end child marriage, but we have a big monster called corruption, because even when we have the laws in place, they have been let down by corruption. So we need to stand and hold our hands together and see how we fight this so that we are able to have justice for survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Dr. Mariam, your concluding remarks? I'm not sure if Dr. Mariam is, yes, she's there. I know you were struggling with internet earlier.
Yeah, Lauren, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Lauren, and everybody. So I would like to suggest some phrases. In our community, the evidence shows us we do not pursue communities by learning them, but we win to trust by walking through their own institutions, creating inclusive dialogues, and so working for it to link SRH to value they are already whole, and by making service accessible to reduce stigma, strength rivalries, and empower girls with information and choices. So in my suggesting closing line, that we have to protect Somali girls. We must work with not against the customary and religious system. So while expanding confidential adolescency, friendship, SRH, and GBV surfaces when leaders and health surface and young people act together, so we can shift norms and save lives.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Dr. Lamia, your final remarks?
Yes, I would like to thank everyone, Dr. Hope, Dr. Marianne, and Dr. Faizat, and you, Laureen. I've really learned a lot from everyone here. And I would like to thank the participants for their patience, for their contribution. It's very enlightening. This is very educative kind of event, and I enjoyed it very much. As much as we are panelists, but we hear a lot from everyone that will enhance our next meeting. And I really wish all the best for the Horn of Africa women, and all the African women. And I would love to see ourselves as one big nation advocating for the right of women or all African. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lamia. And I'll go over to Hala, who's also Dr. Al-Karib, but she's very modest and doesn't use her title. So Hala, over to you to give remarks.
Lorraine, and I have really enjoyed listening to this very valuable conversation. I have a very quick, first of all, I would like to acknowledge and thank the young women who shared their experiences with us. I think they have been very courageous and extremely inspiring, and showed us, that their resilience and their capacity to overcome horrific circumstances. And I strongly encourage them, to utilize their experience, their skills to act as advocates on behalf of other women, so that what they have endured, what they have experienced, it shouldn't be happening to other women. It's really important that, they should own their experience, be very proud of themselves, and lead the work and advocacy against, I don't call it child marriage, I call it child sexual exploitation, because it's a form of sexual violence, or sexual violence against children, literally. This is what it is. But I just have one point I would like to stress, that when we are drafting our advocacy agenda, we should remember that little girls being forced and given away for marriage, it's directly linked to poverty, and it is directly linked to destitute and disparities. And the fact that our governments, our national governments, are not investing on girls' education, so please, all the time, when we are doing our advocacy. We have to make the connections. It's important to look at religion, it's important to look at culture, but all those factors exacerbates by the lack of access to resources and the lack of access to educations. Education has been privatized across this region. Opportunities of women and girls to access educations has been diminished significantly generation after generation. And this is a very dangerous situation. So please learn more about how much resources was allocated or is being allocated for girls' educations in your national budgets. Now, the question about the conflict situation, post-conflict situations, being in Sudan, Somalia, or South Sudan, I encourage you to go and sit with the departments of educations, to sit with the departments of finance and to speak to your ministries of gender and to the offices that claims to be responsible of women, and to speak to the UN agencies and ask them for subsidies and more opportunities for girls' educations and have clear plans. I think we should always speak about the fact that girls from conflict and post-conflict situations, they have the right to have access to boarding, schools for free. They have the right to have access to technical educations that will give them skills to continue, and they have the right to continue their educations, even through evening classes. There is a lot of innovation, after school classes, and so on. We have to be very innovative, and we have to understand that this is a very complex problem. It intersects greatly with policy and political agenda and with allocations of resources. So when we do our advocacy, we're not going over and again in one small circle, while the root causes of the issue, it's lying there, on the money, on the resources, on the investments of girls' educations, because child marriage, is linked to girls' educations, and girls' educations is fundamentally a development agenda. That's really very critical. Thank you, Laureen. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Hala, for closing that exceptionally brilliantly and bringing in the political angle to this, because I know there is so many people that have invested so much resources and are probably doing it the wrong way and addressing the wrong issues without digging deeper to what the root causes are, what the drivers are, and how to address the budget question. So thank you so much, Hala, for closing us on such a powerful note and making very strong recommendations for how advocacy can be done going forward and what we need to be doing around our advocacy. We are going to be closing the webinar here. I would like to say thank you so much to everyone that has been part of this conversation. Thank you to the girls that were part of this space. We can't do this without voices like yours, because you have to be part of shaping the future we want to end child marriage and, as Hala has said, sexual exploitation of girls. We do have a webinar survey that is going to come up. It's also been translated in different languages. So I encourage us to please respond to this survey and tell us how you'd like us to engage with you in the next webinar. So we have 2 webinars. This has been a series running since June. It's not your fault. We do have 2 left. We have one on 23rd of October, and we're inviting everyone that has been part of this conversation to come back, and we'll be talking about women's political participation and politics. So thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to request that you turn your videos on for a group photo. And as you fill in the survey, you are free to leave at will. Thank you again and have a good evening. So requesting everyone to turn your videos on.